D. Many thanks for joining on today's edition of the program. We are looking at the market wrap up from the previous. Nigerian All-Share Index has been on a bullish trend for 2 weeks and running. The Nigerian Share Index wrapped up on the trading section in the inching up by a modest 13.61%, rather 13.61 points to close at 97,639.88 points. This marks a slight gain of 0.01%, reflecting a subtle but a steady uptick in the market. However, despite this upward movement in the index, trading volume saw a dip, falling by 17.75% from the previous day's total of 671 million shares to 552 million shares, which was traded in the previous section. Market capitalization remained unchanged at 59.1 trillion naira, and the total number of trading executed stood at 99,305, indicating a steady level of activity despite the decrease in the volume. Looking at the market summary, the current All-Share Index is at 97,639.88 points. Previously, it was at 97,626.27 points. A day change of a plus 0.01%. Year-to-date performance is at plus 30.58%. Volume traded was at 552 million shares in a total, with a total deal of 99,305 deals totally traded. And then the trading volume also witnessed Nigerian liquidity market experience a decline in trading activities, with trading volumes falling by 17.75%. A total of 552 million shares were exchanged, down from the previous, which was at 671 million shares in the previous section. So looking at the outlook, despite the modest 0.01% uptick in the market, the market optimized for a rebound remains strong, with solid third earnings from various sectors and sustainable investor interest. The Nigerian liquidity market is expected to maintain an upward momentum in the coming section. So despite the fact that earlier in the month of November, in the month of October and November respectively, the market witnessed a serious dip, given the fact that lots of investors pulled out, and now the market suffered a bit of a decline during those periods. But moving forward from the second week all through to this very moment, we kept witnessing significant increase in the Nigerian All-Share Index. So with that being said, now the market is looking good. I think the policies within that sector is working, but there's more that needs to be done to be able to have Nigerians and more investors coming to Nigeria to tend to also invest. Let's have a conversation around the tariff that President Donald Trump says he is going to increase for Mexico and as well as Canada based on Chinese products. But the CBN, Central Bank of Nigeria, says the rate hike of Trump's tariff on changed Nigeria's fortune in the market, meaning there's no much to be said because Nigerians are actually okay, given the fact that the current tariff now doesn't have any negative impact when it has to come to deal with the Nigerian market. The Nigerian currency showed strength in the official currency market, but remained lukewarm in the black market following the CBN's interest rate hike. Data showed that the local currency strengthened to around 1,659 naira 0.44 kobo to a dollar as of yesterday, from 1,675.62 dollar, which it traded on the opening day market. First opening day of the market this week, the naira settled at 1,750 naira. Earlier today, in the unofficial market in Nigeria's major city, Central Bank of Nigeria maintained a hawkish stance to support the Nigerian naira, and then the Central Bank of Nigeria raised the monetary policy rates to curb soaring inflation and enhance naira stability. The Monetary Policy Committee unanimously increased the MPR by a 25 basis point from a 27.25% point to a 27.50%. The Nigerian Apex Bank also kept the cash reserve ratio at 50% for deposit money banks and 16% for merchant banks. President Donald Trump's tariff plan distorted currency markets. The US dollar distorted the nairas by dynamics and the global currency markets after President-elect Donald Trump announced on his social media that his administration would impose a 25% additional tariff on Canadian and Mexican imports, adding 10% to the 60% tariff on Chinese goods that he had already announced during his campaign. The US dollar index, which compares the US dollar strength to a basket of major currencies, hogged over 106 to 107 index points during Wednesday's trading section, early hours of today. Trading section after important economic data was released. Trading were looking for clues in the Federal Open Market Committee minutes from the November meeting says the dollar index has shown a bullish trend thanks to a solid economic data and the dovish Federal Reserve stance. Profit-taking and geopolitical uncertainties have caused recent pullbacks, but the upward trend remain intact. Technical indicators point to the possible consideration at overbought conditions being the subdued. The UBS predicted that the Fed would likely lower interest rates in December before reducing them more gradually in the coming year. The Fed is expected to lower rates once every quarter in 2025, following a 25 basis points cut in the month of December 2024 that has been projected. The American Central Bank is anticipated to reduce rates by 125% basis points by the end of 2025, bringing its target rate down from 3.25% to a 3.5%. The U.S. economy remains robust, supported by high consumer spending. However, the labor market is experiencing a softened trend, and manufacturing is also facing pressure from weaker global demand. Fed official remarks also revealed disagreements among decision makers regarding the pace of the future and rate reduction. Despite some concerns about sticky inflation, and the Fed's November meeting minutes showed that members supported the gradual easing of the interest rate. We'll be going on a quick break, and then when we return back, we'll be having conversation around Naira, given the fact that the CBN Governor, Mr. Cardoso, says that Naira has been stable since the month of June. Nigerians have argued differently and said that hasn't been the case. Stay with us, we'll be right back. The governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Oluyemi Cardoso, stated that the value of the Naira has shown a remarkable stability since the month of June 2024, despite challenges in the global and domestic economy landscape. This is speaking as the 298th meeting of the Central Bank of Nigeria's Monetary Policy Committee in Abuja, Cardoso emphasized that the central bank's effort to manage the currency and stabilize price have begun to yield positive results. During the briefing, Cardoso acknowledged the importance of addressing both the value and stability of the naira, drawing a distinction between the two components. While the value of a currency is subject to various macroeconomic factors, the Central Bank of Nigeria's primary goal is to ensure stability, which is vital for economic planning and growth. Stability over value. Cardoso explained that the focus of the Central Bank of Nigeria has always been on maintaining the stability of naira, which he described as essential for fostering an environment conducive to economic planning and investment. Looking at the 2024 Nigerian November 2024 MPR meeting, Central Bank raises interest rates once again by a 0.25% to a 27.50%. Now, way before now, this is actually being recorded that this is the sixth time in the year 2024 that the Central Bank of Nigeria has increased its interest rates. So way before now, businesses have suffered, and now they kept witnessing, businesses and SMEs keep witnessing the interest rates being increased. Aside that, the Central Bank of Nigeria, that is Cardoso, or Oluyemi Cardoso, says curbing inflation is going to be one of the reasons why Nigerians are having so much inflation is because there's so much, currencies, cash in circulation. So he is curbing that to help reduce inflation. But people have argued separately and differently that production now is something that is going to help curb out inflation and not tightening the monetary policy, and also not increasing the interest rate, because purchasing power, consumer price will also reduce, purchasing power would also drop drastically. With all of these concerns, the central bank still says it's difficult, but this is the only way out. And with the support of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, with all of his also tax reform policies that is still yet to be passed in the Senate, Nigerians keep complaining of the hardship and then the current hike in electricity tariff and also PMS price. With all of this being slammed on Nigerian businesses, still the Central Bank of Nigeria went ahead to increase its interest rate. So let me bring you up to date with what the Central Bank of Nigeria said. The Central Bank of Nigeria has once again raised its interest rate, increasing it by a 25 basis points from 27.25% to a 27 to 50% in a bid to addressing rising inflation in the country. This decision was announced by the governor of the central bank, Mr. Yemi Cardoso, who also served as the chairman of the Monetary Policy Committee at the conclusion of the Monetary Policy Committee meeting held in Abuja. The Monetary Policy Committee unanimously agreed to hike the rising the interest rate by a 25 basis points to 27.50%, up from the previous level it was in the month of September. The Central Bank Monetary Policy Committee has thus raised interest rates 6 times in a row, and every single meeting held this year. MPR rate decision moved from 27.5% up by 0.25% in the cardiology of a plus 500 and minus 100, and with the CRR, which is at 50%, and then liquidity ratio also at 30%. Meanwhile, the committee decided to retain the monetary policy reserve ratio, which is CRR at 50% for deposits, money banks, and 16% for merchants banks. Consideration for a further rise in the rate. In addition, Cardoso stated that the committee's decision was made against the backdrop of the renewed hike in inflationary pressure in the country. He referenced the headline inflation, which according to the National Bureau of Statistics rose to a 33.88% in the month of October 2024. According to Cardoso and the committee, considered the following increase in inflation affecting price stability. He said headlining inflation core, and then also made core. He also headlined core inflation on food inflation, mainly. So what have been driving inflation in Nigeria, as has said by a lot of analysts, has been the high cost of food items in the market. With all of these issues, going on within the sector, and then high cost of, purchasing power being shot, and then monetary policies being tightened, as well as interest rates being slammed on businesses and Nigerians on an almost monthly basis. That has been one of the reasons why inflation is on the rise. On a lighter note, a few persons are jubilating for the fact that the Port Harcourt refinery that has been promised to start working or being revitalized has actually been started producing product as at yesterday, and then it says 200 trucks are expected to load products daily from the Port Harcourt refinery. This is coming from the table of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. The presidency has announced that 200 trucks will load petroleum products daily from Port Harcourt refinery, making a significant step in Nigeria's energy sector. Sunday Dare, the special advisor on public communications and orientation to the president, disclosed this statement. He confirmed that the refinery's old wing has resumed operation with a production capacity of 60,000 barrels of crude oil per day. So with all of this now, Dangote refinery producing its own, and then the refinery in the Port Harcourt refinery also getting into action and also producing its own, and then releasing around 200 on a daily basis. This means that Nigerians will be able to have surplus. Now, this boils down to the question that Nigerians are asking: does this mean that the price of petroleum will come down? That is the pre-MS. Will it go down because NNPC sells at 1,060 naira? Then, depending on where you're buying, some other petrol stations sell at 1,160, 1,100, depending on where you're getting your own products from. So now Nigerians are asking, does this mean with this refineries coming back to life after so many years, does it mean that it's going to reflect on the price? That question is yet to be answered. And then the others that are not yet working, what does it mean? Does it mean that they will get into action and then we get those refineries, that in Kaduna and Warri as well, working? That is another question that Nigerians are yet to ask. So now the major concern of Nigerians, the major concern of the market woman and those hawking are, will this and those that get to go to work on a daily basis, does this mean that the price of items and the price of petrol in the market, things in the market, is actually going to deepen, is going to reduce? This is what Nigerians are hoping for. Though there's a bit of excitement, the presidency, they're happy, and a few jobs has been created for people in Port Harcourt and Nigerians as well. So with all of these developments, we're hoping to see that Nigerians get to enjoy the dividends of having this refinery come back to life, and then having products in surplus instead of us witnessing massive queues in petrol stations. So with all of this, we're hoping that questions that Nigerians are asking will be would be answered, and if the OPEC will be able to reach its daily mark of producing over 2 million barrels per day, as it was being projected earlier this year. Looking at those angles now, questions are brewing and Nigerians are waiting for answers. This is how much time will permit us to take on to this edition of Business Points. My name is Samuel Odi. I'll see you again tomorrow as we talk more business. Bye for now.